Good morning and welcome to week number 3. This week we are going to take it up a couple of notches and it's going to become a little bit more intense in relationship to the reading, the subject matter of the readings, along with the critical thinking that I want you to do with the readings. And another thing that I want you to think about this week, and you'll see this in the content section, I've included a link on attributive tags and source attribution. So some examples of attributive tags sound like author X states, author X believes, author X surmises, author X contends. Here are some examples of providing clear attribution so that you can make distinctions between your ideas and the author's ideas. So in this discussion board post for this week, I'm going to be paying particular attention to your use of attributive tags and how you are able to provide concrete examples from the reading material and set up those concrete examples with clear variations of source attribution, or in these terms, attributive tags. And you'll see the attributive tag link in the content section on e-learning. A couple of other things that I want to touch on before I get into the nitty-gritty of the things that are going on this week come back to the discussion board posts. At this point, everyone is doing a pretty good job overall on the discussion board posts. Last week, I gave you some comments, some feedback, and I gave a lot of you individual comments and feedback and individual links that I want you to explore on your own so that you can address those particular issues in your writing. If you have any questions about the links that I've provided in my comments, please feel free to let me know. A couple of you have also asked questions about the best way to submit your discussion board post. Should you create Word documents or should you just post right to the discussion board post? I'm fine with either or, whichever one you feel comfortable with. As we move throughout the course of the semester, as we get to weeks 4 and 5, you'll see that the requirements will be a little bit more concrete, and it'll be a little bit more challenging and a little bit more intense. So my philosophy is, let's do this in baby steps and basically do or follow the directions closely on each discussion board post, because little things could change based off of what I'm looking for this week. And you'll notice one of the changes that we'll see in this week's discussion board post. So this discussion board post for this week is a much more involved than our previous discussion board post. Because of that, I'm going to give you an extra day to submit your discussion board post. So the deadline for discussion board post number 3 will be Monday, June 1st, no later than 12 noon. Also, for this discussion board post, as we touched on a little bit last week, we're going to become more involved in this as the weeks go on, and that's this idea of responding to each other. So for this week, you'll have a total of 11 questions. Questions 1 through 10 need to be in no later than the June 1st, Monday, 12 noon deadline. But then you're going to have an 11th question. And in the 11th question, you're going to have to do a little bit more involved response work to your peers' discussion board post. So you are going to have to develop a thesis statement on an article of your choosing in questions 9 and 10. And in question 11, once the posts are up, I want you to find a student's post and I want you to take a counter argument to their thesis statement. And so you'll have a little bit more time, a little bit more flexibility to work with that. And then I'll be looking at your subsequent posts and your responses to your peers. once someone responds to your post, I want you to try to respond back to their post. So as we move forward in weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6, we are going to become more involved and more interactive with each other. So again, discussion board post number 3 is sort of providing us sort of those baby steps to not only respond to each other, but to sort of get our feet wet in regards to this idea of establishing thesis statements and responding to thesis statements with counter arguments so that we can sort of test our own thesis statement by someone looking at our thesis statement and breaking it apart. Along with that, one of the things I also want to mention is this idea of the final paper slash project. I'm being very loosey-goosey with that term in regards to final paper slash project. But on the syllabus, it says that I was going to have that up in week 2. Don't fret. That's coming up sometime this week, and you will have ample opportunity, enough time to work on that. Right now, I want us to focus on the discussion board post because you're going to find that with the final project slash paper that you'll be able to use a lot of the materials, a lot of the questions that we've been dealing with in the discussion board posts in our final assignment. So right now I want you to focus on those discussion board posts, be as clear and as succinct and as and provide a clear detailed discussion on specific examples from the reading materials because that will help you for the final assignment. This week we are, in terms of our fiction, we are going to embark onto our theme of the course, which deals with existentialism. So existentialism, a very quick term, or I should say a very quick definition of existentialism, is this idea or is this philosophy of understanding existence. And so I have 2 articles that will help ground you on this sort of philosophical movement because some existentialists, even though they deal with existentialist ideas, don't necessarily see themselves as existentialists. And we'll see that when we read The Stranger and we talk about Albert Camus. But for now, I have 2 articles that deal with existentialism. The first one is A Primer for Existentialism, which is an article written by a professor, and I have abbreviated that article for our purposes for this class. And then also you'll see an article that deals with existentialist themes in Kafka's The Metamorphosis, which I want you to finish reading and answer questions for discussion board number 3 this week. So Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis deals with a lot of existentialist themes in relationship to this idea of being, this idea of alienation, this idea of isolation, and sort of this idea of how Gregor sort of deals with the mundaneness of everyday life. And also the feelings that his parents, along with his sister, how they feel about him now that he is himself. He's still himself, Gregor, but he's not in the human form anymore. He's in a bug-like form. So what does that do in regards to the function, his functionality, his role within the family? And what can we learn about the Gregor's transformation, the mother, the father, and the sister? How do their transformations become symbolic as a result of Gregor's actual physical transformation? So we're going to see a lot of these ideas, a lot of these themes, and a lot of these elements that come up in Kafka's The Metamorphosis are tied directly to these larger ideas of existentialism, which we'll find in Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, which you'll also read. And this is only a selection of his longer novel, The Invisible Man, And you'll be reading chapter 1, which is the Battle Royal. So, in this aspect, I want you to think about issues related to race, issues related to gender. Remember, this story is written during the 1940s, during a time of the 40s and the 50s. So, racial elements and racial themes are discussed a bit differently than the way in which we discuss these themes today. However, we see a lot of similarities, a lot of unresolved issues that we see happening in the 40s and 50s that we see happening today in 2015. So, while a lot of the ideas are germane or connected to the issues that we see today, the way in which these ideas are discussed and problematized are going to find themselves to be a little bit different. But in regards to existentialism and invisible man, I want you to think about this idea of invisibility. Why does the narrator in Invisible Man does not even have a name? Because he feels invisible. So I want you to think about the social constructs. What is it about this time period and how America deals with race that would make the narrator feel this idea of invisibility? And what can we say about these ideas of invisibility and how that connects to larger concepts of existentialism? Along with these ideas, along with these larger sort of fictional ideas, we're going to bring it back to more of the concrete non-fictional with issues related to research and finding and evaluating sources for research. One of the main objectives in the 112 course is that you learn the elements of doing academic research at the college level. So this week we are going to be discussing the differences between popular sources and scholarly sources, and also how to conduct research and how to understand citation methods. A few of you are going into fields that are a little bit more humanistic in nature. You're dealing with literature, you're dealing with film, and so therefore you'll be using modern language association documentation style. A few of you are going into more of the social sciences, or you might be going more into the business aspect, or even in technical fields. So in that case, you'll be dealing with APA or American Psychological Association. So it's going to become important that you understand some of the differences and similarities within these documentation styles and how that relates to citations and creating bibliographies. And we're going to keep dealing with these issues for the next 3 weeks. Along with that, we are going to deal with this idea of developing thesis statements. I know that the idea of a thesis statement scares people away because of just the sound, thesis statement. But think of a thesis statement as the main point of your paper, or the main point of your response, the main point of the paragraph, or the main point of your opinion. Every opinion has to be supported by evidence. So when you read scholarly articles have a thesis statement. When you read film reviews have a thesis statement. Sometimes thesis statements are not explicit, sometimes they're implied. And when it means by implied, basically means that we get a sense of the author's main point. As you work throughout this semester, I want us to work on stating explicit thesis statements. And explicit thesis statements have two main components. You have to have a claim, a "this I believe" statement, and then that claim has to be supported with reasons. So you might say that the drinking age should be lowered to 18. That is your claim. I believe the drinking age should be lowered to 18. Your reasons would be it should be lowered to 18 because it would teach young people to become responsible drinkers. It would lower drunk driving accidents. These are two examples of reasons. I'm not saying that this is what I believe, but these are examples of a claim, which is this is my opinion, this is what I believe statement, and the actual reasons, this is what supports my statement. And not every single thesis statement is going to be written that cut and dry, but you want to think to yourself, this is sort of a grounding, a template that you can sort of use to help you understand and help you develop thesis statements, and also to help you identify thesis statements in other writers' work. Now, let me warn you, if you are not used to doing this on a daily basis, it is going to feel very challenging and difficult, because what I'm asking you to do is to become aware of a language, or become aware of the functions of a language that you use every day. So I understand the learning curve here, but the object is to not give up, but to continue to practice. So I'm going to be a little hard on you when it comes to giving you feedback on your thesis statement, not because I'm being hard for being hard's sake, but because I care, and I want you to be able to develop that confidence, and to develop that confidence so that you can develop thesis statements with ease in your future courses. I just want to be sure, again, I discussed the attributive tags. Oh, the last thing, make sure that you check out that link on Using Delta College's library, because you are going to have to find a scholarly article in relationship to this topic that you are exploring. One of the things that I would suggest, that if you, when I ask you in the discussion board post for number 3 this week, to continue to find information on this topic that you have discussed in discussion board number 2. If I were you, I would make my life easy and continue to deal with that topic for the course of the semester, because like I said before, all of this stuff is going to get connected in the final assignment. So make sure that you check out that link on Delta College's library. This is going to help you find scholarly sources, academic sources, and help us stay away from popular sources. One thing that I also want to say too, and for future reference, is as you learn about the differences between scholarly and popular sources, and as you become more comfortable identifying scholarly sources, use the works cited pages, use the bibliography pages to help find more sources, to help give you an understanding of the conversation happening on that topic. So use the information that you find to work for you. And these are but a few of the best practices that you will read about this week, and that we will continue to discuss over the next couple of weeks over the course of the semester. So, in the meantime, happy reading, happy writing. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. I will be providing feedback for your discussion board post number 2 over the course of this week, and you will get parameters for your final assignment sometime this week as well. Once again, if you have any questions or concerns, let me know, and I will see you in cyberspace.